Okay, I think if everybody's set up, we can start. Good morning, everybody. My name is Alberto Garrido. I'm a communications officer at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar presented by the NJEDA, where we hope to explain in further detail the eligibility requirements and the procedures for the pre-registration of Phase 4 of the Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program. We'd like to welcome Senator Dawn Marie Addiego. She represents the District 8, the Legislative 8th District. Senator Addiego currently serves as the Vice Chair of the State Government Wagering, Tourism, and Historic Preservation Committee. And she also serves as in the Budget and Appropriations and the Transportation Committees as well. Senator Addiego, please take it away.
Well, thank you, Alberto. I am so glad we were able to put this together today, and thank you for taking time out of your business day to be with us. It is so important for our residents here to know that even though we are having this webinar now, you can always call my office to get more information. These funds will hopefully help so many of our small businesses, nonprofits, restaurants, and more. We certainly know that the pandemic has created unprecedented financial burdens and long-lasting repercussions for our small business and nonprofit communities. That's why it was so important for me to champion this package of bills, providing the New Jersey Economic Development Authority with the funding that makes these $235 million in grants possible, allocating aid to some of our state's most critical industries impacted by the pandemic. This funding doesn't mean our fight is over either. I remain steadfast in my commitment to provide our community's business owners with opportunities to be successful. Today's webinar will cover qualification criteria, pre-registration, the application process, and some critical deadlines. We want to make sure all your questions are answered and that you have a clear understanding of how this program will work. Brighter days are ahead, and we must continue to work together to do everything within our reach. Thank you to the staff at the EDA who helped put this webinar together for us this morning, and thank you all again for joining in. As always, I encourage all of you to contact my office with any further questions or concerns about this or any other matter. We're here as a resource for you. Back to you, Alberto.
Thank you, Senator Addiego. Now with our very own Tim Sullivan, CEO of the NJEDA, who will provide an overview of the EDA's efforts to reach our small businesses in New Jersey. So please, Tim, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Alberto, and good morning to everyone. And first and foremost, I just want to say thank you, Senator Addiego, for being here this morning and hosting this webinar with us, but much more importantly, frankly, for all of your support and being a champion for small business always and during this pandemic in particular. I think we were last together. Well, we had budget committee testimony a couple weeks ago, but before that, we were last together for a bill signing for some prior money related to this funding round together in Medford, and your fierce leadership around the importance of supporting our small business through this crisis has been incredible and critical. On behalf of Governor Murphy, I want to thank all of you for being here. I think, as the senator just said, brighter days are here. We'll be here soon if they aren't here already. With regard to so much of what's going on in terms of progress with the vaccine, progress with the public health crisis, the end, hopefully, of COVID-19 is something we have to talk about and think about every single day. But from the beginning, Governor Murphy has recognized that. Obviously, COVID is first and foremost a public health crisis, but right behind it, it's an economic crisis, and it's one that's being felt disproportionately by our small business community, and within the small business community, being felt disproportionately by women and minority-owned businesses. So, from as you can see on the screen here, from the beginning, from dating back to March of 2020, which feels in some ways like 10 minutes ago, in some ways like a decade ago. The EDA has worked directly with more than 65,000 small businesses, and that number will continue to grow. We've already provided support totaling more than $333 million, which is a nice round number. That number will go up. The governor, legislature, as the senator just mentioned, passed exciting package of bills that'll make that number more like 610, 615 by the time it's all said and done. And we've been able to use that funding, as you can see on this slide, to support programs across a range of things, including the Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program that we're here to talk about this morning and talk about the pre-registration for, but also a loan program, the Sustain and Serve program, which has helped support meals being delivered and provided from restaurants, more than 1.5 million meals across the state, and really a whole range of services programs, because we've tried to take this has been a comprehensive crisis, and we've tried to take a comprehensive approach to supporting our small business community through this. With that, I'm going to hand it to my great colleague, Patience Purdy, who's going to tell us all about how to get pre-registered for this program. Pre-registration is open right now for another round of funding under this grant program. Pre-registration will be open from now until the end of this month, until June 30th, but Patience will tell you all the particulars of how that works. And again, let me just, before I hand it to Patience, say once again, Senator, thank you for your leadership, thank you for your partnership, thank you for your support for these programs. And on behalf of Governor Murphy, we're excited to continue to keep at it and keep working at supporting the small business community until this crisis is fully over. So with that, Patience, take us away.
I certainly will. Okay, so the Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program has reopened for pre-registration. It is a two-part process. So what we've done in order to hopefully make the process easier and more manageable for applicants is we have loaded up the pre-registration, which is the first part of the process, with all of the heavy details from your business. So that's going to be probably 14 or 15 pages of things that you're going to need to go through and answer questions about. And we've done that because pre-registration is not first come, first serve. So you can take your time going through the pre-registration. The eligibility is for this program up to 50 full-time employees with award sizes up to $20,000. And there's targeted funding for restaurants, childcare, micro businesses, and small businesses. As Tim mentioned, the pre-registration is open now, and it will be open through June 30th at 5 p.m. So, so you're all set to get started, but we're going to give you some information approaching that so that when you do get started, you've got everything you need at your fingertips. Just a little extra information that 33% of the funding is reserved for businesses in eligible opportunity zone census tracts. That's not something that you actually need to know. It's something we know on the back end, but it does allow us to provide funding for some lesser served communities. We do also offer the language services to non-English speaking applicants. The pre-registration and the application itself are available in both English and Spanish. So you can fill it out in English or fill it out in Spanish. If you do need assistance with language and you speak one of the, I think, 11 or 10 other languages that are the most prevalent in New Jersey, you can reach out to our call center, which is 844-965-1125, or you can email languagehelp@njeda.com, and we'll work to get an interpreter for you so that we can answer any questions that you may have. So restaurants. So some basic eligibility requirements. If you are a restaurant, then your NAICS code should start with 722. That's the NAICS code for food services or drinking places. And then you'll see that the grant award sizes are listed on this slide as well. So restaurants with 5 or fewer employees or sole props that are restaurants and have no employees are eligible for a grant of up to $10,000. 6 to 25 full-time equivalent employees up to $15,000, and 26 to 50 up to $20,000. Something to clarify here about what is a full-time equivalent employee there, and we'll show you the link at the end, but it's a calculation made by wages earned over the quarter. So we have a calculator that you can use so that you'll know that going in, and we'll have that slide up. What we also want you to know is that when we're looking at your business for eligibility, we're going to look at your business as it is today. But for your grant size, we're going to look at your business as it stood prior to the pandemic. So we're going to ask you for your highest full-time equivalent employees over the past 8 quarters. So starting with January of 2019 and going through to December of 2020, so that you're able to tell us what your business looked like when it was full and whole prior to the pandemic. You must have a physical location in New Jersey, and these are going to flow through for all of you, right? Restaurants, childcare, micro, small businesses. You must be in good standing with the Department of Labor. There is a legal department questionnaire you're going to need to fill out. You'll have to be able to certify that you did have a negative impact because of the emergency, and your intent not to lay off workers, that you're going to try and hold on to as many as you can. It's not saying if you had to let go of folks that you're not eligible, but what we are asking is that your goal is to keep as many folks in New Jersey working as possible. Again, the pre-registration is open now and will stay open through June 30th at 5 p.m. Once the pre-registration is done and submitted, and we'll get into some more details about that, you'll come back and apply on July 7th at 9 a.m. And that's when the actual application will open. We'll flip next to, there we go, to childcare. So some nuances for childcare is that your NAICS code for childcare is 624410. So that's across the board for childcare businesses. The other nuance for childcare is that if you are regulated by the Department of Children and Families, that you'll need to be in good standing with that. There are childcare providers that do not need to be licensed by Children and Families, and those are childcare providers with 5 or fewer children under their care. So we'll ask you that too. If you're exempt from being licensed by Department of Children and Families, we're going to give you the opportunity to say that. And then again, you'll come in and apply on July 7th at 9 a.m. The grant amounts per size of organization are the same throughout all buckets of funding. There we go. So here we go to small businesses, and those are businesses with 6 to 25 full-time equivalent employees or 26 to 50. Again, physical location in New Jersey, registered to do business in New Jersey. We're going to ask you about that. If you're unclear on if you're registered, we're going to provide you with some opportunities to figure out if you are, and to do that if you haven't done that yet. All right, required information. There is a sample pre-registration and application on the business.nj.gov/COVID site. There are also frequently asked questions and links to webinars that we've done walking you through the pre-registration process. Your contact information you'll want to have handy before you start pre-registration, and you'll want to know if you've received other government assistance, what that was, what the program was, and how much that was, because we're going to ask you those questions in the pre-registration process as well. Your business's full legal name, what type of entity you are, the year you were established, your tax ID number, and then, like I mentioned before, your highest full-time equivalent count from the past 8 quarters of WR30 filings. If you don't file WR30s, if you pay all of your employees with 1099, or if you're a sole prop, that's fine. You'll be considered in the micro business kind of category and eligible for up to $10,000 of grant funding. Your North American Industry Classification System, very important if you're a restaurant or a childcare, because you'll need to have that specific NAICS code. Any other business you can search within the pre-registration, or you can go to NAICS.com ahead of time and remind yourself of what that is, and that helps us to understand what the demographics of the business community are, and who is applying for and receiving this funding. So we like to get that information from you. You'll need to know your 2019 and 2020 annual revenue, as well as the revenue lost due to COVID. Again, some more registration requirements. You must be registered to do business in the state of New Jersey. You can find out if you are fully and properly registered by checking your registration status at the Division of Taxation, and you would get a business registration certificate. We're going to show you where to do that in just a moment. If you're not registered or recognized by taxation and you can't pull a business registration certificate, we're going to give you 4 weeks from the time we let you know that we were not able to verify that to correct that. And again, no grant agreement will be executed without a current registration status from taxation or the valid business registration certificate. We're going to remind you of dates over and over again because they're very important. You must pre-register by June 30th at 5 p.m. in order to make it to the next step of the process, which is the full application. The full application will open on July 7th at 9 a.m. for restaurants, childcare providers, and small businesses with between 6 and 50 full-time equivalent employees. And on July 8th for micro businesses, that's 5 or fewer, all the way down to 0. And here we go. So now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how you pre-register, where you need to go. A link to the application center is available at the business.nj.gov/COVID site. And when you click on that, it will take you to the NJEDA application center, where we're going to ask you to register and create a profile. This is not the pre-registration for the program. This is creating a profile within the application system. So you'll enter your email, you'll create a username and a password, and then you'll click register. Once you click register, you're going to continue to provide your information. Click update, and we're going to, oops, let me go back. We're going to tell you that you must complete the information and confirm your email address. When we do that, you'll click and we'll send you an email. In that email, there will be a link. You'll click the link in the email, and that will be confirming your email so that we know that the email we have in our system is correct. That is the main way we will be communicating with you about your grant. Nearly everything, 99.9% of all communication about the grant and the grant process will go through email. So make sure that you enter it correctly, and that's why we ask you to confirm it. Once that is done, then you are back here at the Phase 4 pre-registration application list, and you'll click on the blue button that says Start My Pre-Registration. And we're going to ask you for the contact information again, your title, your phone number, making sure that you're an authorized signer for the business entity, as well as your legal registered business name. And if you have a DBA, then you can enter it here too. And then you'll click next. And we're going to ask you for the street address of the physical location of your business. So if you're a home-based business, that would be the address for your business. Otherwise, it's the physical location that you registered your business at. When you get to the zip code portion here, you'll notice that it is grayed out. You'll click the search and you'll enter in your zip code, and it will give you options. I think those of us in New Jersey are all aware that one zip code could cover many different municipalities. Once you do that, then this is graded as well. You'll get another dialog box that'll allow you to select your individual municipality, and then we will pre-populate, or the system will, your state and county based on that. We're going to ask you if this is a commercial location. Yes or no, either way is fine. Just let us know if you are or if you're not. And if you are a home-based business, again, fine to be a home-based business, we just need to know. Next, we're going to ask you about your organization details. The date your business was established and operational. This date must be at minimum February 15th of 2020. If you opened your business post that date, then you are unfortunately not eligible for this grant. We ask if you are still in operation today. You may have closed because of COVID, but are intending to reopen. So your business may be operational, but not open, and that's okay. And then your ownership structure, again, sole proprietor, LLC, whatever it is, just listed in the drop down. Next, we're going to ask you for your employer identification number. Make sure that you have this correct. If anything entered that is required information into the pre-registration that isn't correct is going to signal a flag and give you a warning. For example, if the EIN is being used by another entity, or you're off by a number, and that can happen, we're going to give you a warning. So make sure you have that information handy and that you enter it correctly. Again, take your time. This process is not first come, first serve. And if you get to this page and you realize you don't have everything that you need, leave the page. You'll always be able to log back in and complete the pre-registration up until you hit submit. So if you think you might have made a mistake a couple pages back, hit back, check it out, take your time. We're going to ask you to certify that your business is properly and fully registered with the state. If you aren't sure about that, you can check that here at this link, and you'll be able to hyperlink directly to that from the pre-registration. We'll ask you if you file taxes under a Schedule C and if you file WR30 information. Again, if you do not file WR30s, that's fine. We'll be considering your business in the micro business category with regards to grant size and eligibility. And then we need to know if you're using a professional employment organization to file your WR30s, because sometimes that doesn't provide us the information on the back end as quickly. So if we know that that's what you're using, then that helps us to get through the process. Next, we're going to ask you the number of full-time employees reported on your Q3 or Q4 WR30 filing. That's for eligibility reasons if you file WR30s, and then we're going to ask you what your highest was as well. We'll ask you full-time and part-time. We're going to ask you about 1099 employees, full-time and part-time. If the answer is 0, 0 is a fine number. So don't worry about that. If you're looking at it and thinking, but I don't have these, answer 0, that's all right. We're going to ask you for your 2019 and 2020 annual revenue. Now, at this point, most of you will probably have your 2020 taxes, but if you don't, if you filed an extension, that's fine. You can estimate your revenue based on gross receipts. Here we are with the business category that I mentioned earlier, and this is going to work similarly to the zip code lookup. You're going to hit the search here. If you know your NAICS code, you can enter it and then select it, and then it will populate. Next questions are going to be about your highest employment in the past 8 quarters, and did you file an NJWR30 during that? And how many was it that you had? All right, next question. Oh, there we go. The next question, we're going to ask you if your organization has a religious affiliation. If you answer no, you'll go on to the next question. If you answer yes, you're going to get some additional questions within that box. Same with lobbying. If you answer no, you'll go on to the next question. If you answer yes, we'll have some additional questions for you. This doesn't make you ineligible. It just means we need a little bit more information. We ask you to select any tax returns you filed with the state of New Jersey. Select as many or as few as there. If none is the answer, select none. The COVID-19 assistance duplication of benefit affidavit. So we're going to ask you what other assistance you've applied for and received. Remember, it's applied for and received. So it doesn't have to be just received. We want to know if you've applied for it as well. And we're going to provide you with a list of the majority of the programs, probably 90% of the programs that were available out there over the past year. If you applied for or received funding from another source, there is an other in there. So make sure you have that handy. If you get to this page again, and you don't have that information handy, or you're unsure of something, you can leave the application at this point, log out, come back in, log in, and go click through until you get back to this page. Just to make sure that you answer it fully. Once you've told us what you have applied for, then we're going to ask you, when did you apply for it? Were you approved? How much were you approved for? At this box will include the total of everything that you've told us, and that will carry over onto your full application, and we'll have questions surrounding that there. We ask you if you are minority, woman, veteran, or disabled owned. If you let us know, that's wonderful. This is solely for our information, so we can understand who's applying and who needs these grants. If you don't wish to identify, that's fine as well. And then we're going to ask you a series of questions about your business, including, does your entity host gambling or gaming activities? You'll notice that in red, there is a list or a disclaimer that says selling lottery tickets or similar activities are not considered gambling or gaming. So that's not what we're looking for. If you do fundraisers that involve raffles, things like that, that's not what we're looking for on that. And then, you know, adult activities does not include if you're a bar or restaurant that sells alcohol. More products and materials down the other adult avenue. So just answer the questions honestly and then click to the next page. Here's our legal questionnaire. And again, this is one of the reasons why the pre-registration process is not first come, first serve and is open for the length of time that it is. We want to give you the opportunity to respond thoroughly should you need to any of these questions. So don't be afraid to say yes. If you say yes, we're going to give you a nice, you know, text box where you can tell us whatever the circumstances were surrounding whatever the question was that you're answering. And then the Privacy Act statement, we do a cross-check with other state agencies on your EIN. This includes the Department of Labor. And you need to let us know that you're good with that and then click next. Electronic signature. So here we are going to ask you to agree to be bound by electronic signatures because again, this program is all done online. Ask you to confirm that you're an authorized signer for the organization. We're going to have your full name there. We'll list your email address as well as your EIN on there. So when you look at that, before you hit submit, make sure all of that looks correct. If you are struggling with anything that doesn't look correct, call our call center at 844-965-1125 and we can help you through that process. Once you hit submit, your pre-registration is submitted and that's what gives you access to the full application. Once you hit submit, you cannot alter this pre-registration. So if there's a mistake or an inaccuracy within your pre-registration, that will travel over to your application and could cause us to put your application into a review status, which doesn't mean that you're declined. It just means we may need some more information from you. But being as accurate as possible and double checks are good throughout this entire process. Once you've submitted your pre-registration, you'll get an email that looks just like this. It's telling you that it's a pre-registration only and that you must submit a full application in order to be considered for the program. The full application will be available on the schedule below. And again, it lists that restaurants, childcare providers, and small businesses, that's available on July 7th. Micro businesses with 5 or less full-time equivalent employees, July 8th at 9 a.m. This is also going to include your pre-registration number, which is this MOLA number, which will be followed by a series of digits. That number is going to be assigned to you throughout this process. So make sure that you have that. And then we're going to repeat your email address here and let you know that all communications will be sent to that email. Questions, our call center number is here for you. And additional information on the program is available at business.nj.gov/COVID. As I mentioned before, there is a grant size estimator. So on the business.nj.gov/COVID site, you'll find the grant size estimator and the grant eligibility estimator. What you do with this handy little tool is enter the quarterly wages for each one of your employees. You don't have to list their names. You do need to list their wages. And at the end, this will provide you with a full-time equivalent number that you can use when you're filling out the grant. There's the estimator for eligibility. Again, difference between eligibility and size, right? For eligibility, we're looking at Q3 or Q4. And for size, we're looking at the past 8 quarters. Once you're done with pre-registration and moving on to the full application, we're going to ask you some additional questions. Were you deemed essential? What capacity was your business able to reopen? If you're a nonprofit, what type? We're going to ask you your revenue loss as a result of COVID. And we're going to ask you to tell us what your additional financial need is as a result of COVID, right? So when you look at all of the COVID assistance that you may have received, or if you haven't received any, what is the need of your business in order to continue operating? And then we're going to ask you what those grant funds will be used for. It could be rent, it could be utilities, whatever it might be. We're going to give you a drop-down list, and I believe there's an other on there as well. A reminder of the timing for the pre-registration, open right now through June 30th at 5 p.m. And then the listing for July 7th and July 8th, depending on what business category you fall into, when you'll come back to apply. If you have completed a pre-registration with us, we are going to send you a reminder when the portal reopens for the application process. So at that, we are at the end of our presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions if there were questions in the chat. You'll see some information. The business.nj.gov/COVID is a great place for information on the program.
Patients, just one or two questions.
Sure.
What about seasonal businesses? Could like pool clubs or day camps or anything like that? Are they potentially eligible?
Sure, meeting all other eligibility requirements. Yes, it's not, there's not a requirement that you're open year round.
Okay. And what about a business, say a restaurant that's that was operating at a limited capacity for a while, but is now fully open, and their cash flow has returned to somewhat normal? Could they potentially be eligible?
So at this point, we're in June, right, of 2021, and what we're looking at when we look at the applicant or at the business is we're looking at your business in 2019 pre-pandemic and for 2020. So when you give us your revenue numbers, you're going to give us a 2019 number and then a 2020 number, and we're trying to make you whole to what you would have been for 2020. So good for you if you're back up and running. That's terrific. And if you're at full capacity, that doesn't mean that you didn't have a negative impact from the pandemic.
Okay, good. I think that might be it for questions.
All right, terrific.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you so much, Patience, for your detailed presentation. I'd like to also thank Virginia Pellerin, our Director of Communications, for making sure that every question got answered in our Q&A. I'd like to thank our CEO, Tim, for his leadership, and also a very special thanks to Senator Addiego for her continued support to the efforts that we're at the EDA is having to get all this financial assistance to our small business owners. I'd like to also remind everybody that the recording of this webinar will be available in the next couple of days in our website. And if there's anything else that needs to be said, now's the time. If not, I'd like to thank everybody for your participation and attending of this webinar of the Phase 4 of the Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program. And I'd like to wish everybody a very nice day.
Thanks,
So,
Alberto.
thank you.